Today let's talk about our first job in Australia. Let's point out that when we arrived here we were just kids fresh out of school. No experience, no understanding of an adult world, and definitely no English. At least not with an Australian accent. Of course, we had some basic English from school, but there was a lot of room for improvement. Back home, it's not common to work while you're still in school. The official working age is from 18, and if you're younger than that, it's almost impossible to get the job. So just being allowed to work here was already a big difference. We were excited to get any job to earn some money. Working at Maccas seemed like a good start. Maccas, that's what Australians called McDonald's here, in case you didn't know that. It was a good chance to gain some customer service experience, which in Australia is a big deal, because if you're applying for further any kind of jobs, it is very important to have at least some. And most importantly, learn English with Aussie accent. And that's exactly what happened. Honestly, the best thing working at Maccas was that we started to understand Aussie accent. Local people, their behavior and even their culture, and it still helps us till this day. Once we got the job, we worked 5 days a week. At first we were casual staff doing shifts from 2 or 3 p.m. till midnight. It was crazy routine. Finishing so late meant we'd sleep until midday, get ready and go back to work again, finishing at midnight once more. The cycle felt endless, tiring and a little bit annoying. Even though it was tough, we signed full-time contract, which meant 38 to 40 hours per week, and it was even more exhausting. But it didn't last long. After about 2 months, we decided to continue our studies and went back to casual hours and started to do morning shifts. From 6 a.m. till 2 p.m. It still was hard, but at least we could see the sun. Despite everything and all challenges we went through, it was an amazing opportunity to improve our English and to save a little bit of money. And now let's talk about working at Maccas itself and some of the funny and surprising things we experienced. First of all, we had to get used to all the name of the items. Even McDonald's itself has a different name, Maccas. Very simple example, a regular hamburger. How hard can it be? But one day a couple ordered a junior burger, which are what Australians call regular hamburgers here. And it wasn't just that. Fries are chips, Sprite is lemonade, nuggets are nuggies, and so much more is different from what you'd expect. The next thing was pretty challenging at first, was taking orders through the headset. Like I mentioned before, our English was just basic English, no Aussie accent, no local slang. So yeah, taking orders through the headset was definitely not easy. You had to understand people speaking fast with all their local phrases. It was tricky, but honestly not the hardest part. The real challenge was to talking to locals, who didn't understand us at first, unless we said the things the way they do. For example, we used to say anything else, trying our best to pronounce it correctly in standard English. But no one understood us. Then we realized Australians don't say it exactly like that. They say it more like anything else. More like anything else? Anything else? Dropping a few sounds with that Aussie rhythm. And the moment we started to saying it that way, people understood us immediately. It's mind-blowing. It was a little things like this that taught us how different English can be depending on where you are. And honestly, it made working at Maccas an amazing way to learn language and the culture at the same time. And there are more and more examples like this. Let me tell you a funny story that happened to me. We all know that in Australia there are quite a lot of elderly people. And here they have a card that's called a senior card, which allows them to get a free coffee or a small drink. Those people often come through the drive-thru. One time an older lady, she drove up to my window and she said, "May I have a docket?" And as a person who at that moment had no idea what docket meant, I asked her what exactly she wanted. And we actually don't quite understand why it is so hard to rephrase the word, just find another words to say exactly the same thing, like receipt, invoice, bill. Docket, it is very old English word that no one uses here, except of an elderly people. Well, in the end, the conversation finished with her saying, "Can you please give me someone who knows English?"
Emotional, damn it!
As you can imagine, after that conversation, I really started wondering if I actually knew English. Another funny thing that happened to us as twins, because we happened to have same shifts and we worked at the same store. And you know how Maccas drive-through works? You place the order at one window and collect it from the other. And just to clarify, we had store where we had separate booth, you take orders there. And to collect the food, you have to drive up to the store. So it was two different locations and two different spots. So sometimes one of us would be taking the order and the other would be handing it out at the pickup window. And people were so confused. They couldn't understand how they saw the same person at the first window and then boom, there was the same person again at the next one. We even had questions like, did you teleport from the other window? Or do you have a secret underground tunnel to get here faster than we do? It was hilarious and honestly it made our long shifts so much more fun. Also, one of the things that we learned while working at Maccas was the names of all the different types of coffee in Australia. The coffee names here are quite different from what we were used to, and since we also worked as a baristas, we learned how to prepare drinks like flat white or long black and exactly how much milk or froth each type of coffee should have. Maccas taught us how to deal with stressful situations. Because where there are people, especially hungry ones, there are always lots of complaints and negative feedback that you have to handle. No one asks or cares that you've already worked most of the day and you are tired. We often had to deal with negative and stressed people. So I can say that this experience helped and taught us how to handle such situations. Also, we want to answer on most frequently questions and questions you'll probably ask. Can you make your first money working at Maccas? And the answer would be yes, of course. It will 100% depend on how old are you, because they are paying you salary. Depends on your age. Also depends how many hours you'll be working. Would it be work days or weekdays? Or you're doing overnight, who knows. But to be honest, this work is not about money, it's more about experience that you're gonna get. It will be helpful in the future, because when you're applying here for the job, they can see that you are a hard-working person and that you have at least some kind of experience. Is working at Maccas a good first job? Most of the Maccas employees are the local school kids and immigrants like us who just graduated their school and need to work somewhere. If you love Maccas food, their items, and you still want to love it, then I would probably not recommend you go working there, because after working there for a while, you will hate it from the bottom of your heart, and that's it. If you're looking for a flexible hour shift, you have no experience, no good English or no nothing, that's a good opportunity to start from somewhere. Thanks for watching this video. If you like it, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel. Comment down below if you ever worked for Maccas and what you think about this job. And we'll see you next time. Bye! But there was a lot of room for improvement. You had to understand people speaking fast with all their